Yuri Gagarin claims he saw stars on the daylight side of the Earth and assures us that stars will be visible whenever you look in the opposite direction of the sun. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Under the right viewing conditions from inside a cabin. By the way, didn't you say...
All these questions come direct from primary sources.
I was just curious. Do you know how to speak or read Russian?
Des Natra, Koko van Glisvinio Bot.
Then we go to Survival in Space, written by Comrade Yuri Gagarin. The whole book is a virtual goldmine of daylight star sightings made by himself or other cosmonauts, or assurance in some form that stars would indeed be visible. Right at the beginning of his book, when writing about his ascent aboard Vostok 1, Yuri Gagarin writes, "The Earth through the window of the spacecraft looked approximately as it does from a jet plane at high altitudes. The mountain ridges, the great rivers, massive forests, and ocean shoreline stood out sharply. I could see both clouds and their faint shadows on the surface of the Earth. When I looked out towards the horizon, I saw an unusual distortion very distinctly. The Earth was ringed by a blue halo, which gradually darkened, turned turquoise, dark blue-violet, then coal-black. Trembling with excitement, I watched a world so new and unknown to me, trying to see and remember everything. Astonishingly bright cold stars could be seen through the windows." Then on page 20, Gagarin assures us, "On long interplanetary flights, cosmonauts will inevitably run up against a similar phenomenon. For months they will see around them only bright unblinking stars against the black bottomless sky and the blinding disk of the unsetting sun." This is not what Collins told us in Carrying the Fire. Towards the sun, nothing can be seen but its blinding disk, whereas down sun there is simply a black void. Gagarin goes on. On page 35 he writes, "To tell the truth, I was amazed at that altitude the detail of the Earth's surface could be seen so well. The spacecraft was going close to 17,000 miles per hour, but the Earth's surface was right there, in my field of vision outside the spacecraft window. How can man on a spaceflight see details of the Earth's surface, or even the more distant stars? It seems the answer is space itself." Then on page 42, "Interplanetary spacecraft will move at cosmic speeds, but in the immense vastness of the universe, the speed will be insignificant. The starry heavens will seem frozen and still. No human sensory organ will be able to register the speed of the craft. The cosmonauts will figure out the trajectory of their flight from fixed points of stars." Keep in mind that Collins claims he could not see the stars through any of the 5 CSM windows. He claimed the only way to see them was to put metal plates over all 5 windows and then look through the navigation telescope. And when he did, what I see is disappointing, for only the brightest stars are visible through the telescope, and it is difficult to recognize them when they are not accompanied by the dimmer stars, which give each constellation its distinctive visual pattern. On page 55, Gagarin says, "With their eyes opened, the majority of cosmonauts were not troubled in their notion of up and down unless they saw a starry sky below them and the surface of the Earth above." Then on page 73, Gagarin quotes Comrade Pavel Popovich of Vostok 4. "My next job was to control the altitude of the craft on the dark side of the Earth, lighted only by the moon. I controlled direction by using the clouds. A cloud through the central part of the periscope has a greyish colour but is white through the outer ring. Studying the clouds, I could even see which way they were going because of their density and visibility against the black Earth. I was pretty successful at keeping focused on the stars, which will be so important in future work in astronomy. Having found my constellation, I'd choose a bright star and watch it through the inner ring of the periscope. As I watched, I would see it moving down towards the center. As soon as it reached the center, I would manipulate the manual control until it was right in the center. I came to the conclusion that you could not only control the craft by the stars, but also make astronomical observations. Oh sure, Popovich is talking about seeing stars during a night pass above the Earth, but he specifically says that he could see constellations through his navigation telescope, and thus pick and choose which stars to use as a reference. Collins claimed he couldn't recognize constellations period because only the brightest stars would register in the telescope. Michael Collins claims, looking sundown, there was nothing but a black void, and he couldn't see the stars without putting metal plates over the windows and then looking through the telescope. Is this true?
The only thing I have any serious doubts about in all these quotes is your ability and willingness to represent these people honestly. I don't know the context here. You haven't given the direct quote. And I don't know the ways in which his viewing conditions and Gagarin's may have been different or similar to one another.
Right at the beginning of his book, when writing about his ascent aboard Vostok 1, Yuri Gagarin writes, "The Earth through the window of the spacecraft looked approximately as it does from a jet plane at high altitudes. The mountain ridges, the great rivers, massive forests, and ocean shorelines stood out sharply. I could see both clouds and their faint shadows on the surface of the Earth. When I looked out towards the horizon, I saw an unusual distortion very distinctly. The Earth was ringed by a blue halo, which gradually darkened, turned turquoise, dark blue-violet, then coal-black. Trembling with excitement, I watched a world so new and unknown to me, trying to see and remember everything. Astonishingly bright cold stars could be seen through the windows."
There are many factors which could drastically alter a person's ability to see stars, whether on a space mission or here on Earth. One difference that I do know between these two missions is that Gagarin had only one window, so whenever it was turned away from the sun and the Earth, and his cabin lights were off, he had very good visibility. And so I have no reason to doubt what Michael Collins said.
When asked about stars at a press conference, Collins said,
"I don't remember seeing any."
"Does this mean he didn't put plates over the windows?"
Your breathlessly narcissistic pseudo-intellectualism is getting kind of embarrassing here, Jarrah. Just what kind of gotcha bomb do you think you've dropped on me? I haven't read Collins' book or studied all the projects that the astronauts engaged in, but I'm assuming just on the basis of what you've said here that these metal plates are used to block out sunlight, so that astronauts will be able to get their eyes dark adjusted so that they can see stars from inside their cabin. But let's see what question was asked that Michael Collins was responding to that you did not show here.
And secondly, when you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Now, didn't you say...
Oh, and don't worry. Unlike you, I have no need to quote mine. Unlike you, I have no need to quote mine. I have no need to quote mine. I have no need to quote mine.
Actually, Jarrah, you do need to quote mine and misrepresent people and take them out of context because it's all you've got.
When you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics.
I asked Neil Armstrong whether he saw stars because I knew everybody else would ask it. I knew the answer, of course. The point is that their eyes aren't adapted to that.